Our Evan Kenny and Eric Bay chatted about the finalists for the various NHL awards.
The NHL has announced their award finalists. Joining me today to talk about this is our Eric Bay. Eric, thanks for joining me.
Hey, glad to be back. Had a week off, but this is a great topic to kick off the week here, so really excited.
For sure, and I know myself, like many others, are very excited to see what the finalists, or rather, who wins the awards. And we might as well just kick it off with the first-year players in the league, the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year. eBay, let's throw it to you. What are your thoughts? Who do you think will win the Calder?
Yeah, no disrespect here to Dominic Kubalik, but this is really kind of a two-horse race, and Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar really ran away with this one early on. And for me, if it wasn't for Makar's injury, Makar would have definitely ran away with this entire thing. I think, in my opinion, I don't really see him slowing down much. And even now, when you do look at it, he did have 50 points compared to Hughes's 53, and he played, 10 or so fewer games, right? So obviously, just when you look at the production he put up, and also too on the defensive side as well, he had a much better plus minus than Hughes did in his rookie year, which again may not be the tell-all, but just tells me again, too, that not only was he contributing offensively when he was on the ice, but he's also able to shut it down a little bit, too, defensively. And I know, too, especially when you look at Colorado, they're not exactly what I would consider a defensive team. Both teams, the Canucks and Colorado, had good goaltending, but I really think Makar kind of would have ran away with this one, again, if not for that injury.
And Eric, I totally agree with you. Makar's start of this season was absolutely unbelievable. He was playing like a true number one defenseman where he was taking over games. We mentioned the points. We mentioned the defensive play. He really had it all, and it comes down to his skating ability. He's one of the best skaters in the NHL already in just his first year. And I mean, we saw glimpses of it when he made his appearance in the playoffs last year for Colorado, even scoring a goal. So we kind of knew this guy was really, really good, but how good was tough to say. So I definitely agree with you. Makar is my Calder winner as well. Moving on to the James Norris Top Defenseman Award. Roman Josi, Victor Hedman, and John Carlson were all, or the three finalists rather. For me personally, I have Roman Josi winning this award. I mean, Josi, very underrated season. He low-key put up the second most points by any defenseman, 10 lower than John Carlson, but he also had the great defensive numbers as well. He was a plus 22 on the Nashville Predators, who allowed more goals than the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Washington Capitals. So for those two reasons, Roman Josi has my Norris Trophy.
Yeah, and I mean, for me particularly, I would say any other year, this is definitely Roman Josi's. You mentioned very underrated season, and that's really what he's done throughout his entire career in Nashville. He's just continued to up the ante. But I look at what John Carlson did here this year in Washington, and specifically exactly what he did at the start of the season. Obviously, he did have that very, very hot start, and he put up over a point per game as a defenseman, which especially nowadays is very hard to do. And yes, Josi did have that better plus minus when we do look at that stat. But I just think, again, especially when we talk about the Norris, obviously we've seen in recent years it has gone to the best offensive defenseman. So I do think when you are looking defensively, because, I mean, hey, you still have to score more goals than the other team, right? So I really do think that Carlson did enough with his offensive play to put him over the top in Josi in that discussion. However, I will say I wouldn't be upset or surprised if Josi was voted the Norris Trophy winner because, again, an amazing season down there in Nashville.
Yeah, Carlson had the start. Josi kind of came on strong at the end. And no disrespect to Victor Hedman, as, I mean, all three of them are absolutely unbelievable players. Speaking of unbelievable players, the Ted Lindsay finalists, Leon Draisaitl, to the surprise of nobody, Artemi Panarin, and Nathan MacKinnon are the finalists. I know we have different opinions on this, so eBay, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, for sure. And I know when people do see this and they look automatically, the first thing you go to when you're picking MVP is the points. And if you were going just by points, then obviously it would be Leon Draisaitl, 110 points this season. Again, just an amazing season overall. But when I'm looking at most valuable player, I need the most valuable player to his team. And I really do think that Connor McDavid is still, no matter what, the most valuable player on the Edmonton Oilers. And I don't think Draisaitl would be as effective without McDavid. So for me, I think my MVP is Nathan MacKinnon, and obviously he did have a great season here this year, over 90 points. And the thing for me is he did it without his running mates. Both Gabriel Landeskog and Mikko Rantanen missed significant time. Landeskog only playing 54 games, Rantanen playing 42. So he had way more points than anybody else. We've mentioned Makar earlier. He was second on the team in points with 50. So McKinnon had over 40 points more than the second guy on his team, whereas Draisaitl had McDavid, who had 97 points despite McDavid's injuries this season. And for me, the really telling stat, I think, is the fact that despite all the points Draisaitl put up, he was still a -7. So you're telling me that a guy in even strength has more goals scored against him than he can put in the net? That is concerning to me when you are looking at that overall MVP. And we've talked before, too, just those Calgary games as well. He put up 3 points a night, but makes some very terrible giveaways. So I really think that his numbers are kind of stretched just based on the fact that him and McDavid are getting so much power play time together. So for me, it's got to be Nathan MacKinnon for MVP.
I agree with you, Eric, in the sense that a -7 as the top scorer in the league is just, it blows my mind that, you can be a defensive liability and still be up for the most valuable player. Now, that doesn't take away that Draisaitl for sure is the most valuable offensive player, but overall, I wouldn't say he is the MVP of the season. I think Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon are the two best players in the world, but I don't think this season that they were the most valuable for their teams. I think Artemi Panarin was the most valuable for his team. When you look at 5-on-5 points, he had 71 points versus 66 that Draisaitl put up. He was also a +36 over the season, and like we said, the -7 is a huge downfall for Draisaitl. I think Panarin really helped out this New York Rangers team, who was looking for somebody to really carry them. So my vote goes to Artemi Panarin. Now, that was the Ted Lindsay Award, who's voted on by the players. The Hart Award has not been released for the finalists yet, and that is voted on by the media. Eric, it's always a pleasure having you join us. Thanks for talking hockey with me.
For sure. Thanks for having me.